All right. Hello. Good afternoon out there in caregiver world. I am so excited about this. Introduce myself to everyone. I am Whitney Rochelle. I am one of the admins for the Caregiver Support Group, and I am so happy to have each one of you here sharing this space with you, sharing this platform. It is always my honor to read your post, to read your questions, to look at your photos. Thank you so much for sharing your life with us here in the group. I want to take this time to introduce a very special person that I met actually in the group. Her name is Mrs. Cheryl Field, and she has extensive back in herself. She is just absolutely amazing. She's going to come on and do a chat with us today regarding basically to empower you all as caregivers, or all of us, let me include myself, to empower us care on things that we see a lot in the field as well as things that we see in the group. There are lots of people experiencing emotional stress, caregiver burnout, financial stress, stress around the holidays, and just the stress of not knowing what's next on your caregiving journey. And so today, Cheryl has taken some time out of her live. Feel free to put them in the chat. Feel free to comment, and we'll do our best to answer the questions. All right, it's over to you, Cheryl.
Thanks so much, Whitney, and good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for having me here. Let me start off by introducing myself. I am a nurse of 35 years. I am in a formal paid caregiver role and informal caregiver role. So I'm a daughter of parents. I was primary caregiver for my mother, my stepmother. My father's still alive. He's 90 and a half. And I deal with these stressors that I'm going to talk with you about all the time. So, to you today as someone who does a lot of speaking in this space, who's really lived the experience. I've studied it, I've researched it. I just work full time. And it's really a pleasure of mine to share my knowledge, my wisdom, my experiences with all of you, because a lot of these lessons I've learned the hard way. And I've designed systems that help caregivers to prevent the burnout, to actually build resilience, and to keep you in that caregiving role. We love being caregivers, but it shouldn't come at the full-on cost of our complete self. So I'm going to talk to you today about 5 tips that I like to give, and I do call this empowered caregiving. And you can empower the outcomes of care. That's really something that I don't think we think about as caregivers. When we take on everything ourselves, we think that's the best plan and that it gets the best outcomes. And the fact is it doesn't. So the first tip that I give to caregivers is to find out for you what is your personal non-negotiable. So I like to say, don't give choices you don't have, but give lots and lots of choices. And what I mean by that is, for you as the caregiver, you have to figure out your non-negotiable. What keeps you healthy? What keeps you actually able to show up each day? Is it the walk? Is it your yoga class? For a cell phone, it is a USB-C charger. End of discussion. If I do not plug it in, it dies. What is that for you? As caregivers, we must know what our non-negotiables are. A nice way of saying that we don't like to say is we need to set boundaries. And caregivers don't like to set boundaries. But if you do not set a boundary to take care of yourself, you will not be able to stay a caregiver long term. Second part of that equation is giving lots and lots of choices. And choice is very empowering to that person that you're caring for. So I get out of the decision making for your loved one. Let them choose what to eat, what to wear, get dressed. Give them as many choices as you can. That helps them to feel in control and empowered. So the first tip that I like to share is, let's see if I can figure out how to work with my camera today. I have choices, and I'm going to figure out what those are for me, and I'm going to give lots of choices to my loved ones. Now, the second tip that I give to caregivers is really a strategic tip. And I wanted you to think about owning the strategy with your loved one, owning the strategy of your plan, and actually executing, like delegating all that execution. And when I teach this, I use my hands and I say, look, if you can't be the person who does the groceries and the cooking and the bathing and the bills and the medical appointments, And then when you don't feel good, when your hands are apart, the whole plan falls apart. If your strategy is to keep your loved one at home, aging in place, if your strategy is to support your loved one with weekly visits while they're in an institution, if your strategy is to be present at the treatment making decisions, if you're coaching someone through cancer, then you own that strategy. Be at every strategic conversation, but do not drive them to every chemo. Do not drive them to every radiation. That's where you need to delegate. That's where you need to talk to your village, your friends, your family, your extended friends, anyone on social media who said to you, "Oh, I'm really sorry to hear you're going through this rough time with your dad, with your spouse, with your sister. How can I help?" How can they help? You're going to drive next Tuesday. So take every opportunity to delegate that strategic plan to other people within your village, and do that right away. Don't do it don't wait till you're exhausted and burnt out and feeling like you can't go another day as a caregiver. If you know someone who's coming new into the role, or you're in that role yourself, I want you to take a baby step by adding at least 2 types of service, 2 supports to your plan. Maybe that's someone who's picking up groceries. Maybe that's someone who's doing the laundry. Maybe that's someone who's doing the lawn and the housekeeping. Like, you need to add resources so that you're able to own the strategy, but you are delegating execution. Now, this also works for, I'm a nurse, and I teach a lot of nurse leaders and nurse executives. You own your strategy. You achieve a magnet status at your hospital. You want to get Joint Commission accreditation, but delegate that execution to your team. As leaders, as caregivers, as women, if we try to do too much, we burn out. And look around, you see the burnout rates are really high. So my second tip for you is to remember that you own the strategy, but I want you to delegate the execution and get more members, more diverse people on your team. Now that brings me to my third tip. My third tip is to find resources. Whitney and I found each other through this beautiful community of caregiver connections. I'm so happy that you're on this Facebook group. These are the kinds of resources that you need. 1, you can share ideas. 2, you can just let off a little steam and feel better about going back into your caregiver role. But I also want you to really seek out resources, maybe someone like myself. And at the end of this, when we take questions, I'll put my website. As a nurse, I have a lot of knowledge, 35 years in senior care. And I have helped hundreds of families. And I follow a recipe, a system that I've designed that really works to help you transition from you living at home to going to a hospital to maybe needing rehab, getting back home. All those transitions are hard. And I help guide you through those transitions. So I finally wrote a book. Now, I love to talk, but I do not love to write. It was very hard for me to sit down and write a book. But I knew that if I could literally put this recipe on paper, then I could help the 60 million seniors over age 65. I could help you, their caregivers, to have a resource, a very affordable, really smart resource to guide you through. So whenever you're dealing with whoever you're caring for, I want you to think about how you can help yourself gain more resources, groups, actual content, understand what's going on medically, understand what's going on financially, but also gain more resources for your loved one, that person you're caring for. And that could be connecting them to someone else they talk with on social media, or they go once a week to a gardening club, or you get them to, interact with a friend once a week on a call. You're adding resources into the plan. And so that's my third tip for you, is that you need to know that you need resources. Please don't try to be a caregiver and stay isolated and do this on your own. That is a recipe for disaster. You'll be crying yourself to sleep. You'll be crying in the morning. The tears, the emotion is part of really depression, when our nervous system is just out. It's got nothing else to give. And I don't want to see any caregivers stay there. I want you to help yourself to come back from that place of really feeling just complete exhaustion, adrenal fatigue, we call it clinically, but complete exhaustion because of what you've been trying to do. Don't go it alone. My fourth tip is to understand who have you partnered with to pay for your healthcare. Who is that payer? Most of us have health insurance through work. Like I have health insurance through my employer. And our loved ones, our parents, if they're over age 65 in the United States, they have government funded health insurance through the Medicare program. They may have chosen a managed Medicare payer, and this is a critical question you absolutely have to have asked. I tell everyone to do this once a year at Thanksgiving, because right now they're in open enrollment. So October 15th to December 7th, every year, your parents over 65, they can change their health insurance. And there's a lot of marketing that comes to them, and they get phone calls all the time, and they get text messages about these affordable plans, and they may choose a different one, not realizing what they're giving up. I don't want anyone to be confused about picking between Medicare, managed Medicare. There is one that's best for you, but only you can decide that. And so I really want you to understand, who is your payer? They are a partner in your health. They're a partner in the healthcare of the person that you're caring for, of your loved one. And so the fourth tip is, I must know my payer. They are a partner along with your health, your health doctors and people that you go to see. But they're actually they're the group going to pay for certain types of care, certain types of treatment for certain periods of time. And I want you to know that now, not when there's a medical emergency, not when they've had a stroke, not when you're trying to figure out, oh my gosh, what do? We go from the hospital, we go to rehab. How long can they stay there? I want you to get this education now while it's calm and you're not feeling emotional and you're not feeling that panic. And I will tell you that you will feel pressure from the payers to move to another place where the cost of care is less. They're going to rush you out of that hospital. They're going to rush you out of rehab. They're going to hurry you home. And it feels very overwhelming at the time. And I really always work with my caregivers to get educated outside of an emergency. Again, think about preparation so that you are armed with confidence and information when that sudden change in health does occur. And let's be honest, myself, Whitney, every one of you who are listening, everyone you love, we are 100% guaranteed to have sudden changes in our health. Between now and death, something's going to happen that we didn't see coming. And being prepared for that sudden change as an advocate, as a caregiver, as a senior, actually makes a big difference in the outcome of that care. This is actually what I talk about in my book. It's called Prepared, a healthcare guide for aging adults. This, as I said to you, I didn't want to be a writer. I'm a talker. I can talk all day. Love to talk. I necessarily want to, how do I say this? I didn't want to die with information that I had in my head and in my heart. And I've only helped maybe 1,000 people, but I know there's millions in this country that needed help. And the help that I give is very practical, very tactical, simple, easy to read, funny. I don't like to be, when I'm writing this book, it's a short book. It's more like a recipe card, questions to ask and things to bring. What's going to happen? Being prepared makes a huge difference in the quality of the outcome of that sudden change in health. Just a single question, knowing, and this is what people tell me all the time, Cheryl, I read your book, felt so overwhelmed when my loved one had that stroke or fell and broke their hip or had a heart attack. But I just took your book and it told me what to ask at each phase of that illness trajectory, and I felt in control. And so as caregivers, when I teach these strategies, I want you, one, to remember that as an advocate, as a caregiver, you're probably like me. I have 3 children. I have a husband at home. I've got aging parents. I have a full-time job. I'm juggling this in between afternoon meetings. And that puts a lot of pressure on my body that's also, going through menopause. It's a hard job being a caregiver. Now, not every caregiver is a woman, of course, but 70% of caregivers are women worldwide, and the average age 49. So if you think about all the pressures that are on you as a caregiver, these strategies are really essential. 1, find out what recharges you and make that a non-negotiable. Take care of yourself first. Give lots of choices to those whom you care, that you love, that empowers them. They feel a sense of control. 2, make sure you find resources for yourself. Know that you need those resources. 3, make sure that you understand that you own the strategy of this caregiving journey. What do you want? How do you want it to look? And then state that strategy, involve an entire team of people. Everyone in your social universe who says, "How can I help you?" give them a small job to do. And that when you put all these strategies together, you'll realize that you will be prepared. You'll be prepared for that sudden change in health. I hope that you will consider my book, which again, it's available on Amazon, guys. It's $7. This is not a moneymaker for me. This is a way for me to empower 1 million caregivers in strategies for 1, building resilience so you can stay a caregiver, and 2, making sure that your loved one gets the care they need by implementing these techniques in your caregiving role. And when you put those tips together, you'll be prepared for this job. I know you love what you do. I love being a caregiver, but we also have to take care of ourselves. And so that's my message for you today. If I can give any service to any of you, actually, I do want you to know my website, because on my website, I have a ton of free resources. I have a resource tab, and everything I find along my caregiver journey that I know is of value to other caregivers, I put up on that tab. Advanced directives in every state of the United States, like medication trackers, understanding pain, thinking about incontinence and what are the best products to use, like all of that I put on my website, which is www.cherylfield.com. It's free to you. Please go, take what you need. If I can be of any service to you, let me know. And again, if people have questions, comment on this post if you're watching this later. All those questions, all those comments, if this has been helpful to you, just give us a word, thanks, or yes, was this helpful to you? Yes. That really gives us some good feedback. And if you have specific questions that involve information about your loved one that's kind of private, please don't put that there. But you can come over to my Facebook page, Cheryl Field, Senior Care Consultant. Drop me a DM. I will be happy to talk with anyone and assist you in your caregiver journey. Thank you so much for joining us today. Whitney, I'm going to pass it over to you to see if you have any questions.
Awesome, Cheryl. Thank you so much. You shared so much in a short time. And if I could highlight anything from what you said, I would say that successful strategy often is very hard because also a thing guilt with delegation. Sometimes people feel guilty if they're not doing everything, or they feel like, they don't want their loved one to like, look, that you're missing out on this part of the journey. So that's another thing, that delegation is not it's not a way of pushing the loved one to the side. It's simply making your journey a little bit easier and giving you as the caregiver time to do other things as well. So,
Let me speak to that, because honestly, what you say is true, Whitney. Delegation is actually hard, but it's actually what's best for your loved one and you. And it gets better care outcomes. Like, the research has backed this. Social is not good. And if the only person your loved one is talking to is you, this results in social isolation, results in frustration on your part. And as hard as that is, the first few times you're insisting on someone else coming into the plan, your loved one might be, oh, I don't want a stranger in my home. Okay, they're only strange once, and then they're part of the plan. And you, again, this may be your non-negotiable. It's not an option for you to only have me. Not happening. We need 3 other people, in the plan. The results are better when your loved one is engaging in conversation with other people. And so don't feel guilty, guys. Feel guilty if you're isolating.
yes,
Feel guilty if don't feel guilty. It's the better plan.
awesome. That is so true, Cheryl. Again, I just want to say thank you. Cheryl shared her contact information, how to buy the book on, as well as you can check out her Facebook page, Cheryl Field, Senior Consultant, I believe is correct. And you can also find her from there as well. I know they've been a little bit choppy, so my apologies, guys. The weather is bad where I am right now, but thank you all for tuning in. And if you have any questions, please drop it in the comments, drop it in the chat, and we will be answering different people, sharing experiences, resourceful advice. Good luck on your caregiving journey. Have a great day.